Have you ever seen a cat so broken it didn't even flinch when the rain turned to ice? Before we begin, if stories like this touch your heart, please like the video, subscribe for more, and tell us in the comments where in the world you're listening from. It means a lot to us. The first frost of November 2023 bit through Chicago like shattered glass. Wind howled down alleyways, rattling dumpsters, shaking skeletal trees. Streetlights cast long, lonely shadows over wet pavement. And in that concrete chill, huddled under a buckling porch step, was a cat so still, it might have been a discarded rag. Maya saw him on her walk home from the cemetery. Every Tuesday, rain or shine, she visited her husband's grave. For months since the cardiac unit called. 4 months of silence in a house that once echoed with baseball games, burnt toast, his off-key singing in the shower. Grief had carved her hollow, leaving only routines, work, cemetery, microwave dinners eaten standing at the sink. Tonight, her gloved fingers traced the smooth marble headstone. David Chin. Beloved. Gone too soon. The words hadn't changed. Neither had the ache behind her ribs. She took the long way home, past rows of faded Victorians, hoping the cold might numb something. That's when she spotted the lump beneath Mrs. Henderson's sagging porch. Not moving, not even shivering, just a shadow with eyes. Maya hesitated. Keep walking, she told herself. You can't fix broken things. But her feet sank into the frosted grass. Until she knelt 3 feet away. The cat didn't hiss, didn't flee, just lifted its head slowly, painfully. One golden eye blinked. The other was a milky blue ruin, clouded by scar tissue that clawed down his muzzle. His fur, once maybe ginger, was matted into dirty felt, hiding jutting ribs and legs that splayed uselessly behind him. Paralyzed, a low sound escaped him. Not a meow. A rasp, like dry leaves scraping stone. HHKKK. Maya's breath hitched. She'd seen strays before, skittish ghosts darting between fences. This wasn't fear. This was resignation. The kind she tasted every morning, staring at David's empty pillow. Hey, she whispered, voice cracking. The cat's good eye tracked her, unblinking. She noticed his front paws then, clutching a torn Burger King wrapper, like a lifeline. Smart, she thought. Insulation. Wind snarled, whipping sleet into her face. The cat flinched, burying his nose deeper into the paper. A memory sliced through Maya. David, 2 winters ago, draping his coat over a shivering stray. Can't let the little guy freeze, May, he'd grinned, snowflakes melting in his hair. Her throat burned. Without thinking, she unzipped her parka, slid it off, wool lining still warm from her body. Slowly, so slowly, she edged closer. The cat watched, muscles tense, but he didn't retreat. Just that ragged, rhythmic rasp. HKKK. She draped the coat over his crumpled body, tucking it around his limp hindquarters. His one clear eye widened, a flicker of surprise. Then he buried his face into the fleece, inhaling deeply. A tremor ran through him, not cold. Relief. Maya sat back on her heels, coatless in the stinging cold. What happened to you? She murmured. No answer. Just the wind and the soft crinkle of fast food paper. She should leave. Animal control. A shelter. Someone else's problem. But David's voice whispered in her ear. Look at him, May. He's a fighter. The cat nudged the coat with his nose, pushing it tighter around his motionless legs. Deliberate. Precise. This wasn't just survival. It was strategy. Maya's fingers trembled as she pulled her phone from her jeans. Googled, how to help paralyzed stray cat. Articles flashed, bladder expression, wheelchairs, euthanasia. Her chest tightened. Too much. Impossible. She stood to leave, and heard it. A sound so soft, she almost missed it. Purity? He'd lifted his chin, good eye locked on hers. That broken rasp had vanished, replaced by a question, a tiny, hopeful vibration in his ruined throat. Maya froze. Ice melted down her collar, but warmth bloomed behind her sternum. A feeling she hadn't known since the hospital hallway. Not happiness. Not yet. But connection. She crouched again, hand hovering in the air between them. Okay, she breathed, fog curling from her lips. Ok, little fighter. She pulled a tuna sandwich from her lunch bag, left untouched since noon, tore a corner, laid it on the coat near his front paws. He sniffed, once, twice, then dragged himself forward, using only his shoulders, legs trailing like dead weight. His movements were agonizing, a slow-motion army crawl through invisible mud. But he reached the tuna, ate carefully, never taking his eyes off her. When he finished, he nudged the empty wrapper toward her, like a gift. Tears pricked Maya's eyes. She hadn't cried, not once, in 4 months. Now, in a frozen yard, staring at a broken cat offering her trash. The dam cracked. She didn't touch him. Not yet. But she whispered, "I'll come back. Tomorrow." He blinked, slow, deliberate. Then tucked his nose back into her coat, a sigh shuddering through his small frame. Maya walked home shivering, the cold gnawing her bones. But her heart, that hollow, aching space, felt different, like a door creaking open, in a room she'd sealed shut. The fighter had a name now, though she didn't know it yet. He had a story written in scars and silence. Maya, for the first time since David's heartbeat faded, had something to come back to. The cold clung to Maya's bones all night, a phantom chill that seeped past blankets, past the humming furnace. She dreamt of dragging legs, of icy concrete, and a single watchful golden eye. When her alarm blared at 6 a.m., her first thought wasn't the empty side of the bed. It was the parka. Was he still curled under it? Was he alive? Chicago dawn was a gray smear, wind still whining like a mourner at the window. Maya moved through her routine on autopilot. Shower, black coffee, toast untouched. But today, she packed 2 lunch bags. One with her usual salad. What does a paralyzed stray eat? She'd spent hours online, reading about spinal injuries, bladder expression, pressure sores. The words felt clinical, terrifying. Too much, her mind whispered again. Call animal control. Be practical. But then she saw David's old fleece blanket folded on the closet shelf. The one he'd wrapped around her during chemo 5 years ago. Soft blue, smelling faintly of his cedar cologne. Too painful to touch until now. She grabbed it. Mrs. Henderson's porch looked even bleaker in the weak morning light. Sleet had crusted the grass into brittle spikes. Maya's heart hammered against her ribs, a frantic bird trapped in bone. Please be there. Please be alive. She approached, crunch, 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 peered into the shadowed hollow beneath the sagging step. The lump, motionless. Panic seized her throat. Then the lump shifted. A head lifted, one golden eye blinking slowly, deliberately, meeting hers. The milky blue eye seemed to stare right through her. Her parka was still draped over him, pulled tight like a fortress. The Burger King wrapper was tucked neatly under his chin. "Okay," he rasped. The sound wasn't despair this time. It was recognition. Relief flooded Maya, warm and dizzying. "Hey, fighter," she whispered, a voice thick. She not perfect. Unzipped the second lunch bag. "Not tuna today. Boiled chicken, shredded fine." The scent bloomed in the cold air, rich, promising. His good eye fixed on the container. His nostrils flared, whiskers twitching. But he didn't move. Just watched her, waiting. Maya placed a small pile of chicken on the pavement, just beyond the edge of her coat. He studied it, then studied her. Seconds stretched, filled only by the wind moaning through bare branches. Then, with agonizing effort, he began to drag himself. Shoulders bunching, front paws digging into frozen earth, hind legs trailing utterly still, like unwanted baggage. Every inch cost him. His breath came in short, sharp rasps. But he reached the chicken. Meticulously, pausing between tiny bites, never taking his eye off her. When he finished, he nudged the empty plastic container back towards her, just like the wrapper. "Yours." Tears blurred Maya's vision. This broken creature, offering her the only thing he could. Acknowledgement. Gratitude. She swallowed hard. "I brought you something else," she said, unfolding David's blue fleece blanket. She held it out, letting him smell it. He sniffed deeply. His good eye widened slightly, then softened. He nudged the parka aside with his nose, making space. Maya gently spread the fleece blanket beneath him over the frozen ground, then carefully repositioned the parka on top. He sank into the softness, a shuddering sigh escaping him, long, deep, as if melting. He buried his face in the fleece, inhaling, and for a moment, Maya swore she saw his battered body relax, truly relax. For the first time, that became the rhythm. Dawn visits. Chicken, or salmon, or sardines packed in oil. Maya learned his language. The slow blink meant trust. A low, rumbling purity meant contentment, rare but precious. The raspy "eth" could be greeting, or hunger, or just the sound of his damaged throat. She named him silently in her heart, Rusty, for the color he might have been once. She started bringing supplies. A shallow plastic dish for water. A soft bristled brush she'd found in David's shaving kit. One freezing morning, as sleet needled her face, she dared to touch him. Not petting, just resting her fingertips lightly on his shoulder, over the thick, matted fur. She froze, the good eye snapping to hers, intense, unreadable. She held her breath. Too soon. Stupid. He leaned ever so slightly into her touch. A fraction of an inch. A surrender. That tiny lean cracked something open in Maya. She began to talk. Really talk. Not the clipped phone calls to her sister. Not the hollow "fine" she gave coworkers. Words spilled out, low and raw, into the stillness of the early mornings under the porch. "I miss his laugh, Rusty." It was too loud, filled up the whole kitchen. She described the terrible quiet of the hospital room. The way David's hand felt cool and papery in hers at the end. The guilt of wishing it was over, just so the waiting pain would stop. The suffocating loneliness of their bed. Rusty listened. He'd eat, or rest his chin on his good front paw. His clear eye fixed on her face, occasionally blinking slowly. Sometimes, when her voice broke, he'd make that soft purry sound, a vibration that seemed to resonate in her own chest. She discovered his wounds. Not just the ruined eye, Under the thick mats, along his spine, were angry red pressure sores. His hips, where they dragged, were scraped raw. She brought warm saline, soft gauze. The first time she cleaned a sore, he flinched, a sharp hiss escaping him. Maya froze, heart pounding. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm trying to help," she whispered, tears threatening. He looked at her, panting slightly. Then, deliberately, he lowered his head back onto his paws, closed his good eye, trusting. Her hands trembled as she finished, tears now streaming silently down her face. Not just for his pain, but for the sheer, terrifying vulnerability of being trusted. One morning, a week after she found him, Maya arrived to find Rusty not under the porch, but just outside it. He dragged himself a full 3 feet onto the frosty grass. He was panting, exhausted, but his head was lifted, ears pricked forward, watching a sparrow hop on a bare lilac bush. His good eye held a spark, not just survival, interest. "Look at you," Maya breathed, kneeling beside him. He turned his head, blinked slowly at her, then looked back at the bird. She unfolded the blue fleece, spread it beside him. He didn't move onto it immediately, just stayed, watching the sparrow, feeling the weak winter sun touch his fur. Maya sat beside him, not speaking, just sharing the quiet watchfulness. The simple, profound act of noticing the world. It was the first time since David died that Maya truly saw something outside her own grief. She started researching in earnest. Veterinary neurologists, feline wheelchairs, physical therapy techniques. The cost made her dizzy. The commitment terrified her. What if I fail him? What if I can't do this? She found herself standing in the pet aisle at the supermarket, staring at bags of premium kibble, her cart holding only microwave meals for one. She bought the kibble and a soft plush mouse. The next morning, she placed the mouse near Rusty's front paws. He sniffed it, nudged it with his nose, then looked up at her, head tilted slightly, the milky blue eye catching the light. It was such a cat look. Quizzical, almost amused. Maya laughed. A real laugh, rusty and unfamiliar, that startled her as much as it did Rusty. He blinked, then nudged the mouse again, batted it weakly with a clawless paw. A tiny, broken play. Hope, fragile as a spider web, shimmered between them. The connection deepened, woven through shared silence, pain, and small offerings. Maya learned the rhythm of his needs. He needed his bladder expressed twice a day. She learned the technique online, hands shaking the first time, her face burning with awkwardness and fierce protectiveness. He needed the pressure sores cleaned meticulously. He needed the fleece and the parka arranged just so. He needed her voice, talking about David, about the stupid office politics, about the burnt toast she'd made that morning. One bitingly cold afternoon, Maya arrived later than usual, stressed after a brutal day at work. Her hands were numb, her thoughts a jumble of deadlines and grief. She knelt, automatically pulling out the chicken. Rusty didn't move towards it. He was lying on his side, breathing shallowly, the good eye half closed. Fear spiked through her. "Rusty? Hey, what's wrong?" She touched his shoulder gently. He opened his eye fully, looked at her. Slowly, deliberate, he stretched out his front paw, not towards the food, towards her. His paw, small, rough padded, claws sheathed, touched her knee, just rested there. A solid, warm, gentle weight. Not a plea, not a demand, a comfort. "I see you. I'm here." Maya's breath hitched. She covered his small paw with her own trembling hand. The tears came then, not the silent ones of the cemetery, but deep, racking sobs that shook her shoulders. Sobs for David, for the loneliness, for the fear, for the sheer overwhelming kindness of this broken creature offering solace. She cried into the cold air, while a paralyzed street cat kept his paw on her knee, his good eye watching her, steady, unblinking, a silent anchor in her storm. The parka, the fleece, the empty chicken container, lay forgotten beside them. In that frozen alley, under a bruised winter sky, two broken things held onto each other, and the fragile thread between them felt stronger than bone. The fragile piece under Mrs. Henderson's porch began to feel permanent, like a secret world Maya and Rusty had carved out of ice and grief. She arrived before dawn, her breath pluming in the flashlight beam, carrying thermoses of warm water, antibiotic ointment, and stories about David's terrible attempts at gardening. Rusty's pressure sores were slowly healing to pink skin knitting under the mats she carefully worked loose with David's old brush. He'd greet her with that raspy followed by the soft, rumbling purr that vibrated deep in her own chest when she finally dared to stroke his head. He'd even begun to tentatively bat the plush mouse, dragging it a few inches with determined swipes of his good front paw. Hope, warm and terrifying, had taken root. Maya started researching cat wheelchairs in earnest, saving lunch money, skipping her own dinners. She called vets, her voice trembling as she described Rusty's condition, the milky eye, the dragging legs. Possible spinal trauma, likely from impact, maybe a car. One vet said gently over the phone, prognosis guarded without imaging, but cats are resilient. Resilient, like the word David used when she lost her hair during chemo. You're the toughest person I know, May. Lily appeared, a small figure bundled in a puffy pink coat, standing at the edge of Mrs. Henderson's frostbitten lawn one Saturday morning. Maybe 7 years old, huge brown eyes fixed on Maya, who was carefully expressing Rusty's bladder under the porch, her back turned. Maya jumped, heart lurching. "Are you hurting that cat?" the little girl asked, her voice clear and serious, cutting through the quiet. Rusty let out a low, protective growl, a sound Maya hadn't heard before. She quickly covered him with the blue fleece, wiping her hands on her jeans. "No, sweetie, I'm helping him. He can't go to the bathroom by himself." The words felt clumsy, inadequate. The girl took a hesitant step closer, her pink boots crunching on the ice. "I live there," she pointed to the faded yellow house next door. "I see him sometimes, when the bad boys throw rocks." Her small face tightened. "They called him Monster, because of his eye." Maya's stomach clenched. "Monster?" She looked down at Rusty, his good eye watching the girl, wary but curious. The milky blue eye seemed to stare into nothing. "He's not a monster," Maya said, her voice harder than she intended. "He's hurt." The girl nodded solemnly. "I know. I tried to give him my cheese stick once. He didn't eat it." She inched closer, crouching down a few feet away. She smelled like strawberry shampoo and snow. "What's his name?" Maya hesitated. "Rusty." The name felt real, spoken aloud for the first time. "Rusty," the girl repeated, testing it. A tiny smile touched her lips. "I'm Lily." And just like that, their world expanded by one small, pink-coated presence. Lily started appearing, almost magically, whenever Maya was there. She'd bring offerings: a crustless peanut butter sandwich, a fuzzy green pom-pom from her hat, a carefully folded drawing of a cat with 4 strong legs, flying over a rainbow. Rusty, surprisingly, tolerated her. He'd blink slowly when she talked in her high, earnest voice, even allowing her to gently stroke the fur between his ears. Once. "She's safe, Rusty," Maya murmured, watching the careful interaction. His ear twitched. "PRT." Lily became a wellspring of innocent questions. Why does his leg not work? Did it hurt when he got his OEI? Will he ever run? Maya answered as honestly as she could, the simplicity cutting through her own complicated dread. "He got hurt a long time ago, before I knew him. Like when you fell off your bike, remember? Big hurts take time." Lily absorbed this, her small brow furrowed in concentration. "Maybe," she said one morning, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "Maybe if he wants to run hard enough, his legs will remember." It was sweet, logical, the kind of hope only a child could voice. But Maya felt a pang. What if he never remembers? What if I pour everything into him, and it's not enough? The fear, a constant hum beneath the surface, grew louder. The cost of the specialist vet, the potential surgery, the wheelchair. It loomed like a mountain she couldn't climb. Her savings, David's modest life insurance, it was meant for emergencies, for her future. Was Rusty her future? Or just a desperate placeholder for the love she'd lost? Then the scratching started. It began subtly. Maya would be packing up her supplies, talking softly to Rusty, and she'd hear it. Scritch, scritch, scritch. A dry, persistent sound against the old, weathered wood underneath Mrs. Henderson's porch steps. Rusty would be lying on his fleece, seemingly calm, but his front claws, worn down from dragging, would be working rhythmically against a particular spot on the porch's foundation wall. Scritch, scritch, the scritch. At first, Maya thought it was just an idle behavior, maybe an instinctive digging reflex. She'd gently redirect his paw. "Hey, none of that, buddy. You'll hurt yourself." He'd stop, blink at her. But the next morning, or sometimes late into her visit, scritch, 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 always the same spot. A patch of wood darker, more worn than the surrounding planks. Lily noticed it too. "He's trying to dig," she declared one day, kneeling beside Maya. "But why there?" Maya shrugged, unease prickling her skin. Maybe he smells a mouse? Or just likes the feel? But it felt deliberate, obsessive, like a ritual. One bitterly cold afternoon, Maya arrived to find Lily already there. Her pink coat dusted with snow, tears streaking her flushed cheeks. "The bad boys came back," she choked out, pointing to scattered rocks near the porch. "They threw them hard." Rusty hid deep under, but he was shaking. Rage, cold and sharp, flooded Maya. She crawled under the porch, deeper than she'd ever ventured, the air thick with dust and the damp smell of earth. Rusty was pressed into the farthest corner, not on his fleece, trembling violently, the low growl back in his throat. His good eye was wide, terrified. The scratching spot was directly above him, gouged deeper now. Splinters littered the ground. "Shoo, they're gone," Maya soothed, her voice trembling as much as he was. She reached for him, but he flinched away, pressing harder against the wall. Against that spot. Scritch, scritch. His claws moved weakly, instinctively, over the wood. Not aggression. Desperation. Like he was trying to claw his way through it. Later, after calming Rusty, after walking Lily home and speaking tersely to her startled mother about the rock-throwing boys, Maya stood alone in the falling snow, staring at the worn spot on the porch foundation. "Why there?" It wasn't near where he slept or ate. It was strategic, hidden. A memory surfaced, sharp and unexpected. David years ago, pointing out a chipmunk burrow entrance hidden under their own porch. See how it's tucked right where the foundation meets that big root? Smart little guy. Uses the structure for cover. A chill that had nothing to do with the weather snaked down Maya's spine. Was there something behind that wall? Something Rusty knew about? Something he was trying to reach? Or escape from? The next day, the tension escalated. Maya brought a small, soft cat bed, hoping to lure Rusty away from the foundation wall. He ignored it. He ate his chicken, accepted his bladder care. But his focus kept drifting back to that spot. He'd drag himself over, rest his chin near it. Scritch, scritch. The sound was fainter now, his claws clearly sore, maybe bleeding. It was heartbreaking, maddening. Lily arrived, clutching a piece of paper folded into a tight square. She didn't crouch near Rusty. Instead, she walked right up to the porch step, right above the scratching spot, and wedged the folded paper deep into a crack in the old wood. "Here, Rusty," she whispered fiercely, her small voice thick with conviction. "I wrote it down. So you remember." Then she ran back to Maya, her eyes shining. "I gave him the wishing." Maya blinked. "The wishing?" Lily nodded solemnly. "When I want something real hard, and I'm scared to say it, I write it down and hide it. So the wishing can work without me being scared." She pointed to the crack where the paper was wedged. "I wished for Rusty to run." The simplicity, the profound faith, hit Maya like a physical blow. She looked at Rusty. He had dragged himself closer to the spot where Lily had placed the paper. His nose was pressed against the crack, sniffing intently. His good eye was narrowed, focused, not scratching now, listening, as if waiting for an answer from the other side of the wood. The mystery deepened, twisting into Maya's own anxieties. What was he connected to in that darkness under the porch? A past trauma? A lost kitten? A source of pain he couldn't escape? And Lily's wish, a child's desperate hope folded into paper. Did it anchor him or taunt him? The breaking point came 3 days later. Maya arrived to find a man in a thick work jacket, kneeling by Mrs. Henderson's porch, tapping the foundation walls with a small hammer. Contractor, Mrs. Henderson, a frail woman with kind eyes Maya had only nodded to before, stood nearby, wringing her hands. "Oh dear, it's worse than I thought," she fretted as Maya approached. "Termites, probably. This whole section might need replacing before spring." She gestured towards the porch steps, directly over Rusty's scratching spot. Panic seized Maya's throat. "Rusty." She dropped her bag, scrambling towards the hollow. "Wait!" But the contractor was already prying at a loose board, right where Rusty had been scratching. A low, guttural yowl erupted from under the porch. Not fear. Pure, primal rage. Rusty lunged, dragging himself forward with shocking speed. His good eye blazing with a ferocity Maya had never seen. He placed himself directly in front of the loose board the contractor was lifting, baring his teeth, a ragged guardian of the shadows. The contractor jerked back, startled. "Whoa, lady, is that your cat? He's vicious." Maya pushed past him, crouching low. "Rusty, it's okay. It's just me." He turned his head, the fury in his eye flickering, replaced by a desperate, pleading look as he saw her. Then, back to the board, a low, continuous growl vibrating his entire battered frame. Protecting. Demanding. Stuff. Mrs. Henderson peered down, her eyes wide. "Oh, the poor dear, he lives under there? I had no idea." She looked at Maya, then at the contractor. Maybe just leave that board for now, Carl? We can check the others first." The contractor shrugged, annoyed. "Suit yourself. But that's the worst spot. Probably rotten right through." He moved further down the porch, tapping. Maya stayed crouched, heart pounding. Rusty slowly lowered his head, panting, the fight draining out of him, leaving exhaustion. But his body remained tense, angled towards the loose board. The board Lily had wedged her wish behind. Maya reached out slowly, not to touch Rusty, but to touch the wood he'd been scratching. Her fingers traced the deep gouges, the splintered edges. She pressed gently. The wood gave, just slightly, a soft, damp crunch, and a puff of something dark and fine, like very old sawdust, drifted out from the crack. Not termites. Older, colder, like earth that hadn't seen light in decades. Rusty let out a soft whimper, stretching his neck, nose twitching frantically at the crack. Not aggression now. Longing. Maya recoiled, pulling her hand back as if burned. The contractor's words echoed, probably rotten right through. What was behind that wall? What had Rusty been trying to reach or warn her about? And what would happen if the rotting wood gave way? The fragile sanctuary under the porch was crumbling, not just from termites, from a mystery buried in darkness, and a paralyzed cat's desperate, silent plea. Maya looked from Rusty's pleading eye to the fragile wedge of paper containing Lily's impossible wish, to the ominously yielding wood. The choice loomed, as heavy and cold as the Chicago winter pressing down on them all. Ignore the rot, preserve the fragile piece, or pry it open and risk everything unraveling? Rusty's low, ragged breathing was the only sound, filling the tense silence, a question hanging frozen in the air. The smell lingered in Maya's nostrils, cold earth, decay, and something else, something profoundly final. Like opening a tomb, Rusty's whimper turned into a low, continuous moan, a sound of pure anguish that vibrated through the frozen ground beneath her knees. He pressed his nose frantically against the loosened board, ignoring Maya's trembling hand reaching for him, ignoring the cold, ignoring everything but that dark crack. His claw, torn and bleeding now, made one last, feeble scrape against the wood. "Let me in. Let me see." Mrs. Henderson hovered anxiously nearby, her voice thin with concern. "Carl, maybe just lift that board carefully? The poor thing seems frantic." The contractor, Carl, sighed, irritation warring with reluctant pity. "Lady, if it's termites, disturbing it could collapse the whole corner. And if it's something else dead under there." He trailed off, but the implication hung heavy. Maya couldn't breathe. Rusty's desperate moan, the smell, the yielding wood, it collided with the suffocating memory of David's hospital room. The sterile scent, the yielding silence, the desperate, useless urge to do something. Not again. She wouldn't stand by. Not for Rusty. "Please," Maya's voice cracked, surprising herself with its force. She looked up at Carl, then Mrs. Henderson. "Just lift it a little. Just enough to see. I'll hold him back. Please." The raw plea in her eyes, the broken cat keening at her feet. It tipped the scales. Carl muttered, but knelt. He slid a pry bar carefully into the gap. Rusty lunged, a guttural hiss tearing from his throat. Maya wrapped her arms around his trembling body, holding him tight against her chest. His good eye fixed, burning on the crack. "Shoo, it's okay? I've got you," Maya whispered, her own tears hot on her cheeks, mingling with the icy sleet starting to fall. "Kurt," the old wood groaned in protest. Carl lifted just an inch, then another. A shower of dark, damp debris fell out. More of that fine, ancient dust. Maya held her breath, Rusty rigid in her arms. Carl shone his flashlight beam into the narrow opening. He peered, squinted, then his face changed. Not disgust. Profound, startled sadness. "Oh, hell," he murmured, soft, reverent. He carefully widened the gap another inch, reached a gloved hand inside the cold, damp cavity beneath the porch foundation. He pulled out a small water-stained shoebox. It was crumbling, held together by mud and mold and time. Placed deliberately, tucked deep into the hollow where foundation met earth. Not thrown. Not discarded. Hidden. Rusty went utterly still in Maya's arms. The fight vanished. His head drooped, his good eye fixed on the box with a depth of sorrow that stopped Maya's heart. A low, shuddering sigh escaped him. Not a moan now. A lament. Carl set the box gently on the frozen grass. The lid wasn't sealed, just resting loosely. Maya, still holding Rusty, felt the world tilt. She knew. Even before Carl lifted the disintegrating lid, she knew what they would find. Inside, nestled in disintegrating scraps of fabric, lay 3 tiny skeletons. Kittens. Long dead. Fragile bones, delicate skulls, curled as if sleeping. Preserved by the cold, dark tomb under the porch. Beside them, carefully placed, a single, small, dried sparrow wing, and a tarnished metal button. The air rushed from Maya's lungs. This was Rusty's. His family. His secret. The reason for the scratching, the guarding, the desperate, obsessive focus. He hadn't been trying to escape. He'd been trying to reach them. To protect them. Even in death. The button, the wing, treasures offered to his lost babies. The pieces crashed together, brutal, undeniable. The paralysis, likely from a car strike while scavenging, leaving him helpless to save them. The ruined eye, perhaps from the same impact, or defending them. The dragging himself back, finding them gone, hidden away by some unknowable hand or decay. He knew they were here. He knew. And for months, maybe years, he'd guarded this spot. Fresh. Waited. Grieved. Alone. Maya sank to the ground. Rusty cradled against her, both trembling violently. Her tears fell onto his matted fur. "Oh, Rusty." She choked, the words barely audible. "Oh, my brave, broken boy. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." She pressed her face into his fur, smelling dirt, pain, and now the unbearable weight of his loss. It mirrored her own, amplified, echoing in the hollow space David had left. The sheer magnitude of his silent vigil, his enduring love for what was gone. It shattered her. Rusty didn't struggle anymore. He lay limp in her arms, his head heavy on her forearm. His good eye, fixed on the open shoebox, glazed over. The spark, the fight, extinguished. Seeing them exposed, after guarding them so fiercely, it was too much. A low, guttural sound began deep in his chest. Not a purr. A primal vibration of grief, so deep it seemed to come from the earth itself. Lily arrived then, drawn by the commotion, her pink boots slipping on the sleet. She saw Maya crying, saw the box, saw the tiny bones. Her small face crumpled. "Are those Rusty's babies?" she whispered, her own eyes filling. Maya could only nod, unable to speak past the ache in her throat. Lily didn't cry out, didn't look away. She walked slowly, solemnly, to the shoebox, looked down at the tiny skeletons with a child's heartbreaking acceptance. Then she remembered. She scrambled to the porch step, reaching deep into the crack where she'd wedged her folded wish. She pulled out the slightly damp, crumpled piece of paper, unfolded it carefully. She didn't read it to herself. She faced Rusty, who lay broken in Maya's arms, his gaze still locked on his lost family. And Lily, her small voice clear and strong despite the tears on her cheeks, read aloud. "Dear Wishing Place, my name is Lily. I live next door. Please make Rusty's legs remember how to run. He needs to run and play like my cat Mittens. He is sad. His eye is broken but his heart is good. He protects his spot. Maybe he is protecting something important. Please help him not be sad anymore. Help him find happy. I promise to share my cheese sticks. Lily." The words, simple, earnest, filled with impossible hope, hung in the icy air. A stark contrast to the tiny bones in the box. A child's plea for joy spoken over the evidence of profound sorrow. Something shifted. Rusty's ear, the one not pressed against Maya, twitched. Just once. His gaze, fixed on the box, flickered. For a fraction of a second, his good eye moved. Looked at Lily. Looked at the paper in her small hand. Then back to the box. A ragged breath shuddered through him. The low, grieving vibration in his chest stuttered. Just for a moment. It softened, lost its edge of desolation, becoming something quieter, something almost accepting, as if Lily's words, her acknowledgement of his sadness, her belief in his good heart, had touched a place beyond the pain. Maya felt it, a subtle release of tension in the small body she held. Not healing, not yet, but a yielding, a silent, "I see you see me." Lily carefully folded her wish again. She didn't put it back in the crack. Instead, she walked to the shoebox, kneeled in the wet grass, and placed the folded paper gently inside, beside the tiny bones, next to the small wing and the tarnished button. A new offering, a child's hope laid beside a cat's enduring love. "He can keep it with them," Lily whispered, looking at Maya. "So his babies know he has a friend now. So they don't worry." The simplicity, the profound grace of it, broke Maya open completely. Sobs racked her body, deep, cleansing, pouring out the grief she'd locked away for David, for her own lost future, for Rusty's unimaginable pain. She cried for the tiny lives lost, for Rusty's vigil, for Lily's pure heart, for the terrifying fragility of love. She cried until her throat was raw, her face buried in Rusty's fur. Holding him, this broken creature who had carried such a monumental sorrow alone, who had mirrored her own isolation back to her with silent, scarred eyes. Rusty didn't move. But he didn't pull away. He lay utterly still, letting her hold him, letting her tears soak into his matted fur. His own grief vibration had quieted, replaced by a deep, exhausted stillness. His good eye, half closed now, watched the shoebox, where Lily's wish rested beside his lost family. A vigil shared. Then something happened. A small, almost imperceptible movement. Rusty, lying on his side in Maya's arms, stretched his head just slightly and rested his chin, not on the ground, not on his paw, but on Maya's hand, the hand that was cradling him. A deliberate touch. A wait. A silent, exhausted, "Thank you." It was the smallest gesture. But in that frozen moment, amidst the sleet and the sorrow and the open grave of a shoebox, it felt like the universe shifting. The wall wasn't just a physical barrier broken. It was the wall around Maya's heart, and the wall of Rusty's solitary grief, shattered not by force, but by shared tears, a child's wish, and the unbearable, beautiful weight of a paralyzed cat's chin resting on a human hand. The connection wasn't just felt. It was forged in bone-deep loss and the fragile, terrifying courage to finally see each other. Maya held him, and Rusty, for the first time, truly let her. The storm of grief began to quiet, leaving behind a profound, aching shared stillness. The breaking point wasn't an end. It was the first raw breath of a beginning. The world didn't stop turning after the shoebox. The sleet kept falling, the wind kept howling down the Chicago alleys. But under Mrs. Henderson's porch, something fundamental had shifted. A quiet, profound exhaustion settled over Maya, Rusty, and even little Lily. The raw nerve of discovery had been exposed, scraped bare, leaving behind a strange, hollow peace, like the stillness after a violent storm. Maya carefully, reverently, placed the shoebox back into the cavity beneath the porch. She didn't seal it. Carl, his gruff demeanor softened by the raw emotion, helped gently reposition the loose board, leaving a small, intentional gap. Not for termites. For air. For remembrance. For us. "It's a grave now," he muttered, avoiding Maya's eyes as he packed his tools. "Deserves some respect." He refused payment. "Just take care of the little fighter, yeah?" Rusty watched, his head heavy in Maya's lap as she sat on the cold ground. He didn't lunge, didn't growl. His gaze, fixed on the gap in the wood, held a depth of sorrow that felt ancient. But the frantic desperation was gone, replaced by a weary, heartbreaking acceptance. The secret was known. The vigil witnessed. He'd done his duty as best his broken body could. Now he just seemed spent. Lily stayed quiet, her small hand resting lightly on Rusty's back. She didn't ask to see the box again. She just hummed a tuneless little song, her thumb rubbing gentle circles on his matted fur. Later, she brought a smooth river stone from her collection, painted with a tiny, clumsy rainbow. She placed it near the gap in the wood. "For his babies," she whispered. The simplicity, the instinctive understanding of ritual, left Maya breathless. The next morning dawned brittle and clear, the coldest yet. Maya arrived bundled, thermos of warm water in hand, her heart a tight knot of apprehension. What state would she find him in? Would the exposure of his deepest wound break him completely? He was waiting, not huddled deep in the shadows, but near the edge of the hollow, the blue fleece blanket pulled halfway around him. His good eye fixed on the path she always took. He saw her, and a low rasp escaped him. Not pain. Recognition. "You came." The relief was so intense Maya's knees wobbled. She knelt, not rushing to touch him, just being present. "Hey, Rusty," she breathed, fog swirling between them. He blinked, slow, deliberate. Then he nudged the plastic dish she'd left for water. Empty. A request. Simple. Profound. Life goes on. That became the new rhythm. Slower. Softer. The frantic energy, the obsessive scratching vanished. Rusty seemed quieter. Older. He still needed his bladder expressed, his sores cleaned, the warmth of the fleece and parka. But a new stillness lived in his good eye. He watched the sparrows with detached interest, not longing. He accepted Maya's touch more readily, sometimes leaning into her hand with a heavy sigh. He even batted half-heartedly at the plush mouse once, then seemed to lose interest, resting his chin on his paws. Maya talked. She talked about David, but the sharp edges of grief felt different, sanded down by shared sorrow. She described the weight of Rusty's vigil, the unimaginable love it represented. I think I was scared to love anything that much again, she confessed one frigid dawn, her fingers buried in the thick fur around his neck. It hurts too much when it's gone. Rusty lifted his head, looked at her, then gently, deliberately bumped his forehead against her knuckles. A cat kiss. A benediction. It's worth it. Lily remained their constant, innocent anchor. She brought small gifts. A tiny knitted sock she claimed was a kitten sweater. A picture she drew of Rusty, whole and strong, watching over 3 tiny, smiling cat angel babies floating on a cloud. She'd slip her hand under Maya's, both resting on Rusty's side, feeling the slow rise and fall of his breathing. He's less sad, Lily declared one day, her voice certain. He knows we remember them. Maya realized it was true. The crushing weight of solitary grief had lifted, replaced by a shared, communal memory. The burden was lighter, carried by 3. Maya made her choice. It wasn't a dramatic declaration. It happened in the quiet moments. When she ordered a custom-fitted feline wheelchair online, maxing out her credit card, ignoring the voice whispering practicality, asterisk. When she called a specialized veterinary neurologist, her voice trembling but firm as she scheduled an evaluation, refusing to accept guarded prognosis as the final word, asterisk. When she brought a cardboard carrier one morning, lined with David's fleece, and Rusty, after a long look at the gap in the porch, didn't resist as she carefully lifted him inside, asterisk. The trip to the vet was terrifying. Rusty yowled, low and distressed, in the carrier. Maya talked to him the whole drive, her voice shaking, telling him about David's fear of elevators, about Lily's latest rainbow drawing about the sparrows building a nest near her apartment window. At the clinic, amidst the smells of antiseptic and anxious animals, Rusty surprised everyone. He didn't hiss, didn't cower. He lay quietly on the exam table, his good eye taking in the unfamiliar room, allowing the vet, a kind-eyed woman named Dr. Alvarez, to examine him thoroughly. He flinched when she palpated his spine, but didn't lash out. He endured the X-rays with stoic stillness, only his ragged breathing betraying his fear. Dr. Alvarez studied the films, her expression thoughtful. Significant lower spinal compression, likely from an old trauma, car strike would fit, she said gently. The paralysis is permanent, but she pointed to an image. See this? Nerve roots aren't completely severed. There might be potential, not for running, but maybe sensation, maybe some limited movement with intense therapy. And this wheelchair? She nodded approvingly. Excellent idea. Takes pressure off his sores, gives him mobility. Freedom. She looked at Rusty, then at Maya. He's a remarkable cat. The will to live, it's strong in him. Stronger now, I think. Maya's eyes filled. Not just hope. Validation. Back under the porch, Rusty seemed contemplative. He rested on his fleece, ignoring the chicken Maya offered, his gaze drifting towards the gap in the wood. Maya sat beside him, silent. After a long while, he dragged himself, with immense effort, towards the gap. Maya held her breath. He stopped inches away, sniffed the air drifting from the small opening. Slowly, deliberate, he turned his back to it. He faced Maya, blinked. PRT. It wasn't rejection of the past. It was a turning. A quiet acknowledgement that his vigil, while never forgotten, had changed. His duty now was to the living, to Maya, to Lily, to himself. Daily life transformed, subtly but irrevocably. Maya's apartment, once just a place to sleep between bouts of grief, became a sanctuary. She cleared a space by the sunny window, laid down an old yoga mat for traction, and assembled the wheelchair. It was a lightweight frame with 2 supportive wheels under his hindquarters, a harness securing his paralyzed legs, leaving his strong front legs free. The first time she tried to fit him, it was a disaster. Rusty panicked. The unfamiliar straps, the confinement, the strange sensation of wheels instead of dragging. He thrashed, tried to bite. Maya's hands shook, sweat beading on her forehead. Too much. I'm hurting him. Lily was there, wide-eyed. Maybe, she whispered, maybe he's scared it won't work? Maya paused, took a deep breath. She removed the harness, left the wheelchair frame lying on the mat. For days, she let Rusty investigate it at his own pace. He sniffed it, nudged it, batted a wheel tentatively. She'd place treats near it, then on it, then eventually in the seat. Patience. The breakthrough came on a rare sunny afternoon. Maya placed Rusty gently in the wheelchair's padded seat, without buckling the harness. She held him steady, supporting his weight. "The guy, just try," she murmured. He looked down at his front paws, then forward. He twitched his shoulders, tentatively moved one front leg. The wheelchair lurched an inch, then stopped. Rusty froze, startled. Then a spark ignited in his good eye. He tried again. He looked up at Maya, and made a sound. Not a rasp. Not a PRT. Questioning, hopeful. MRP. Tears streamed down Maya's face as she laughed. Rusty, that's it. You moved. Lily jumped up and down, clapping silently. It wasn't running. It wasn't even walking. It was a lurching, awkward, rolling crawl. But it was forward, under his own power. Liberation, measured in inches. Evenings changed too. Instead of standing at the sink with a microwave meal, Maya sat at her small table. Rusty would be nearby, often resting in his wheelchair or on his fleece bed, watching her with calm eyes. She started cooking simple meals again, the smells of garlic, ginger, filling the small space. David's recipes. She talked to Rusty as she cooked, describing the steps, laughing when she burned something. The silence wasn't empty anymore. It was companionable. One night, digging through a box of David's old books, she found his journal. Not a diary, just random thoughts, grocery lists, song lyrics. Tucked in the back, on a page dated just weeks before his heart attack, she found a single sentence, written in his familiar, looping scrawl. Saw May watching a stray cat today. She had that look, the one that means her heart's about to get bigger. Maya hugged the journal to her chest, tears welling, but not the desperate kind. Grateful. She looked at Rusty, asleep in his fleece nest, his chest rising and falling steadily. David had seen it. Even then, this capacity, this terrifying, beautiful capacity to love despite the risk of loss. Rusty hadn't replaced David. He'd reminded her that the love David inspired lived on. Spring began to whisper at the edges of winter. The bitter cold eased, replaced by a damp, hopeful chill. Tiny green shoots pushed through the frozen earth near Mrs. Henderson's porch. Maya and Lily took Rusty there one Saturday morning. Not to stay, to say goodbye. They decided together. The shoebox needed to be properly laid to rest, not hidden in a rotting cavity. Honored. Lily brought her painted rainbow stone. Maya brought a small, biodegradable box, transferring the tiny bones, the wing, the button, and Lily's folded wish with immense care. She added one more thing: a pinch of David's ashes, saved from the scattering at the lake. A joining of broken hearts, finding peace. They chose a spot under the budding lilac bush, where Rusty had watched the sparrow that first hopeful morning. Lily dug the small hole, her pink mittens muddy. Maya placed the box inside. Rusty watched from his wheelchair, parked on the path, his expression unreadable but calm. As they covered the box with earth, patting it down, Lily placed her rainbow stone on top. Maya scattered a handful of wildflower seeds. They stood in silence for a long moment. The only sounds: the distant traffic, the chirping of returning sparrows, and Rusty's soft, rhythmic breathing. Lily reached out, took Maya's hand. Maya squeezed it. They looked at Rusty. He blinked slowly at them, then deliberately, painstakingly, turned his wheelchair, rolling, away from the grave, towards the path home. Not looking back. The mystery hadn't vanished. The grief hadn't disappeared, but it had settled, like the earth over the small grave. Fertile ground. Rusty didn't need to scratch at the wall anymore. His family was safe, remembered. The paralyzed street cat who guarded a tomb was finally free. His journey wasn't about running on four legs. It was about rolling forward, on wheels made of love, patience, and the quiet, unbreakable courage found when someone finally sees you, really sees you, and stays. The first crocuses pushed through the thawing earth as April arrived, tiny purple and white fists punching through winter's last grip. Maya noticed them on her morning walk with Rusty, his wheelchair rolling unevenly over the cracked sidewalk, his front paws finding a steady rhythm. He moved better now, still awkward, still lurching, but with growing confidence. His once matted fur had softened under weeks of careful brushing, the copper hues emerging like a sunrise after a long night. Lily skipped beside them, her pink boots replaced by rain galoshes, chattering about her school's art show. "I'm drawing Rusty," she announced. "With wings. Not angel wings, dragon wings. Because he's brave like that." Maya smiled, adjusting Rusty's harness. He'd probably set fire to the couch if he had those. Lily giggled, then abruptly stopped, pointing ahead. "Look." A moving truck was parked outside Mrs. Henderson's house. Maya's stomach dropped. She hadn't considered this. The porch, Rusty's old sanctuary, was now just a place they visited occasionally, a quiet pilgrimage to the lilac bush where his lost family rested. But the thought of strangers living there, oblivious to the small grave beneath the flowers, sent a pang through her. An elderly man in suspenders was directing movers. Mrs. Henderson stood beside him, her hands clasped, her expression bittersweet. She spotted them and waved. "Moving in with my grandson," she explained when they approached. "Too much house for me now." Her eyes flicked to Rusty, then back to Maya. "You've done right by him." Maya swallowed hard. "Thank you. For letting him stay. For understanding." Mrs. Henderson reached into her cardigan pocket and pulled out a small, yellowed envelope. "Found this when I was clearing out the attic. Thought you might want it." Maya took it, turning it over. No address. Just a faded pencil scribble. "For the cat man." Lily crowded close as Maya carefully opened it. Inside was a single photograph, brittle with age. A black and white image of a young man in overalls, kneeling beside the very same porch. And beside him, a lean, long-tailed tabby cat, upright and alert, one ear distinctly notched. The cat's paw was resting on the man's knee. On the back, in the same handwriting, "Jack and Scout, 1947. He waited for me every night." Maya's breath caught. Rusty let out a soft PRT, nudging the photo with his nose. Mrs. Henderson smiled. "My father, that was his cat, came home from the war to find him waiting. Said that cat got him through the worst of it." She reached down, hesitantly stroking Rusty's head. "Funny how they find us, isn't it?" Lily's eyes were huge. "It's like Rusty was meant to be here." Maya couldn't speak. She stared at the photo, the earnest young man, the steadfast cat. A guardian from another time. Had Scout, too, kept watch over something precious? Had he, like Rusty, loved so fiercely it left scars? The movers called for Mrs. Henderson. She patted Rusty once more, then turned to go. "House has seen a lot of love," she said over her shoulder. "Glad it's not done yet." That night, Maya propped the photo on her windowsill, where the last of the sunset painted it gold. Rusty rolled close, studying it, his good eye reflecting the light. "You're not the first," Maya murmured. "And you won't be the last." Rusty blinked slowly, then butted his head against her hand. The wheelchair wasn't the end of Rusty's surprises. One evening, as Maya washed dishes, she heard a strange, rhythmic thump thump thump. She turned, soap suds dripping from her hands. Rusty was in the middle of the living room, his wheelchair slightly askew. His front paws were planted firmly, his shoulders tense. And his hind legs, his limp, paralyzed hind legs, were twitching. Not spastically, not randomly. Thump. His right leg jerked. Thump. The left. Maya dropped the sponge. He was trying to move them. She rushed over, kneeling beside him, hands hovering. "Rusty? What are you?" He let out a frustrated huff, his muscles straining visibly beneath his fur. Thump thump. Maya's pulse roared in her ears. She'd read about this, phantom limb movement, residual nerve signals. But the look in Rusty's eye wasn't confusion. It was determination. Lily's words echoed, "Maybe if he wants to run hard enough, his legs will remember." Maya didn't dare hope. But she fetched a towel, rolled it under his hips for support, and gently massaged his hind legs the way Dr. Alvarez had shown her. "Okay, buddy. Show me." For weeks, it became their ritual. Every night, after his wheelchair was off, Maya would support his weight while Rusty focused, trembling with effort, on those tiny, seismic thumps. Some days, nothing. Others, a flicker, a toe curl, a knee jerk. Progress measured in millimeters. Then, one rainy afternoon, Lily shrieked from the living room. "Maya, come look." Maya sprinted in, heart in her throat. Rusty was on his fleece mat, lying on his side. And as they watched, his right hind leg, slowly, shakily, lifted. Not much. Just an inch off the ground. But it was controlled. Intentional. He held it there for 3 trembling seconds before it dropped. Lily burst into tears. Maya didn't fare much better. Rusty, exhausted, just purred. The final gift came from an unexpected place. Maya's sister, Claire, who'd been politely distant since David's death, called one night. "I've been thinking," she said abruptly. "You should bring Rusty to the lake house this summer. The ramp would work for his wheels." Maya froze. The lake house was where they'd scattered David's ashes. She hadn't been back. Claire's voice softened. "He'd have loved that cat, May. I miss you." Maya looked at Rusty, sprawled in a sunbeam, his once ruined eye now just a milky blue badge of survival. He'd brought her here, to this moment where the past and present could finally meet without breaking her. "We'll be there," she whispered. That night, she dreamed of David. Not the hospital, not the grave, but the lake, sunlight on water, his laugh ringing out as a ginger cat with a notched ear wound between his legs. When she woke, Rusty was curled against her chest, his chin resting over her heart. And for the first time in over a year, the dawn didn't feel like something she had to endure. It felt like a beginning. The lake house smelled like pine needles and old wood, like childhood summers, like David's sunscreen, like the last place on earth Maya had been truly happy before grief carved her hollow. She stood on the dock now, the June sun warm on her shoulders, watching Rusty explore the grassy shoreline in his wheelchair. His wheels left faint tracks in the damp earth as he rolled forward, his nose twitching at the scent of minnows and reeds. His once matted fur gleamed copper in the light, his good eye bright with curiosity. Lily splashed at the water's edge, tossing pebbles and squealing when they splashed. Claire sat cross-legged on the dock beside Maya, silent but present, a quiet bridge between the past and the now. Maya reached into her pocket, fingers brushing the small wooden box she'd brought. Inside, the last of David's ashes mingled with a single whisker Rusty had shed, a silent exchange between the two souls who had, in their own ways, brought her back to life. She didn't scatter them. Not yet. Instead, she watched Rusty pause at the water's edge, his ears pricked forward. A dragonfly darted past, and for one impossible, heart-stopping second, his right hind leg twitched. Not a spasm. A kick. Lily gasped. Claire's hand flew to her mouth. Maya's breath stopped. Rusty didn't seem to notice. He was too busy staring at the ripples where the dragonfly had touched down, his tail flicking with feline fascination. The moment passed. His legs stilled, the water stilled, the world stilled, but the truth of it lingered in the air like sunlight on waves. He was healing. Not all wounds vanish. Not all broken things mend perfectly. But sometimes, if love is stubborn enough, if patience runs deep enough, what was thought lost forever flickers back to life in the quietest of ways. Maya knelt at the shoreline, the wooden box warm in her hands. Rusty rolled closer, bumping his forehead against her knee. She opened the box, letting the breeze carry its contents over the water, ashes and whisker, memory and promise, twirling together before vanishing into the shimmering blue. Lily pressed close, her small hand finding Maya's. Claire rested a palm on her shoulder, and Rusty, the broken street cat who had guarded ghosts, who had taught her that love doesn't end where loss begins, lifted his chin to the wind and purred. Grief is not a wall. It's a river. It carves canyons inside us, yes, leaves us gasping in its wake. But it also carries us forward, whether we're ready or not. And if we're brave enough to let it, it will deposit us on shores we never imagined. Shores where joy, when it comes, feels not like a betrayal of the past, but a quiet conversation with it. Rusty never walked again. Not really. But he moved, wheelchair rolling, legs twitching, spirit unbroken. He played with Lily's shoelaces. He stole chicken from Maya's plate. He napped in sunbeams, his ruined eye closed, his good one crinkled in contentment. And every now and then, when the house was quiet and the light was just right, Maya would catch him staring at the photograph on the windowsill, the one of Jack and Scout, the veteran and his cat, frozen in time but alive in memory. Guardians of love. Both of them. Some souls find us in the rubble of our brokenness, not to fix us, but to remind us that even shattered things can still shine. Before you go, if this story touched your heart, please let us know in the comments. Where in the world are you watching from? What moment moved you the most? Like this video, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss our daily emotional rescue stories. Because the world is full of broken things, and every single one deserves a chance to shine again. Share this with someone who needs it. Someone out there is holding on to hope today. Your share might be the whisper that keeps them going. And to Rusty, wherever he is, thank you for teaching us that love isn't about having all the answers. It's about showing up day after day and saying, I see you. I'm here. Goodbye for now, but not forever.